Life aboard the Selnari ship settled into a routine for Olivia. Each day brought new discoveries about alien technology, culture, and biology. She documented everything meticulously, sending weekly reports back to Earth. The Selnari remained formal but gradually allowed her more access to their ship and systems. Olivia rarely saw High Commander Zelorn after their initial negotiations. He seemed content to let his scientists handle the human observer. She spent most of her time with Vex, the chief scientist, who at least showed curiosity about humans, even if that curiosity felt cold and clinical. 2 months into her stay, Olivia was in her quarters reviewing data when an alarm blared through the ship. The sound was unlike anything she had heard before, high-pitched and pulsing. Her door slid open and a junior Selnari officer named Marek appeared. "Ambassador Bennett," he said, "you are requested on the command deck immediately." "What's happening?" Olivia asked, hurrying to keep up with his long strides. "A distress signal has been detected. High Commander Zelorn wishes you to observe our rescue protocols." The command deck was a hive of activity when they arrived. Zelorn stood at the center, issuing orders in the rapid clicking language the Selnari used among themselves. He turned when Olivia entered. "Ambassador, a small vessel of unknown origin has crashed on the 4th moon of this system. I am dispatching a recovery team. You will accompany them as an observer." Olivia's heart raced with excitement and nervousness. "Thank you for this opportunity, High Commander." Zelorn's expression remained neutral. "This is not a courtesy, Ambassador. We wish to document your species' response to emergency situations." Within the hour, Olivia found herself aboard a Kelnari shuttle, descending toward a rocky, airless moon. Through the viewport, she could see the crashed ship, a small craft. Unlike any she recognized, it wasn't human in design, nor did it match the sleek lines of Selnari vessels. The Selnari recovery team moved with practiced efficiency, securing the crash site and establishing a temporary pressure dome. Olivia followed them into the wrecked ship, her environmental suit feeling bulky compared to their sleek gear. The interior of the ship was dark, lit only by the emergency lights from the Selnari team. The air was thick with smoke and the smell of burnt circuitry. Bodies lay scattered in the small command area, humanoid but clearly not human. Their skin had a faint blue tint, visible even through the scorch marks. Olivia counted 6 adult-sized bodies, no survivors, announced the team leader. A small sound made Olivia turn. In the corner of what appeared to be a sleeping chamber, a section of wall panel had been bent to create a small protected space. From within, 2 large eyes reflected the light of her helmet lamp. "Wait," Olivia called out. "There's someone here." She approached slowly, kneeling to peer into the makeshift shelter. A small child, clearly of the same species as the dead crew, was huddled inside. The child appeared to be about 4 years old by human standards, with iridescent blue skin that seemed to pulse with light and large, expressive eyes that took up most of its face. "Hello," Olivia said softly, though she knew the child couldn't understand her. "It's okay. We're here to help." The child made a soft chirping sound and pressed further back into the corner. The Kelnari team leader approached. "Stand aside, Ambassador. We will extract the specimen." "Specimen?" Olivia looked up in shock. "This is a child. It is a juvenile of an unknown species," the Selnari corrected. "It requires medical assessment." The team moved in with clinical efficiency, using a device to sedate the child before carefully removing it from the hiding place. Olivia watched helplessly as they placed the small blue body on a stretcher and transported it back to the shuttle. During the return journey to the mothership, Olivia sat near the child who remained unconscious. Its chest rose and fell with quick, shallow breaths. Up close, she could see delicate gill-like structures on its neck and webbing between its fingers. Its hair was not hair at all, but fine, feathery filaments that moved gently with each breath. Back, on the Selnari mothership, the medical team whisked the child away. Olivia followed them to the medical bay where they treated its injuries: a broken arm, several cuts, and what appeared to be smoke inhalation damage to its breathing organs. Zelorn arrived as the treatment was concluding. "What is the specimen's status?" he asked the chief medic. "Stable," replied the medic. "Injuries have been treated. Biological scans reveal no known pathogens harmful to Selnari. Species is unknown, not in our biological database. Containment protocols will be followed," Zelorn decided. "Transfer it to Observation Unit 7 until we reach Science Station Trenlor." "Containment?" Olivia interrupted. "You mean isolation? But that's—" Zelorn turned to her. "Ambassador Bennett, this is a standard procedure for unknown biological entities." "That's not an entity," Olivia said, trying to keep her voice level. "That's a child who just lost everyone they knew. They need comfort, not containment. It is not Kelnari, nor is it human," Zelorn responded coldly. "Our designated caretakers are not equipped for interspecies nurturing. The child will receive adequate nutrition and medical attention. That is sufficient." Olivia watched helplessly as the child was transported to a sterile room with transparent walls. Inside was a bed, a small table with food, and nothing else. No toys, no comfort items, nothing to distract from the fact that it was, essentially, a cell. The child woke shortly after being placed in the room. Its eyes darted around frantically. It chirped and trilled, pressing its small hands against the transparent wall, clearly distressed. "The specimen appears agitated," noted a Kelnari scientist recording observations. "Possibly a reaction to unfamiliar surroundings." "That's not agitation," Olivia said through gritted teeth. "That's terror." Zelorn turned to leave. "Observation. We'll continue. You may return to your duties, Ambassador." But Olivia couldn't return to her duties. That night she tossed and turned in her bed, the child's frightened eyes haunting her thoughts. After hours of internal debate, she made a decision that would change everything. Using the access codes she had carefully memorized over the past 2 months, Olivia bypassed security and entered the containment unit. The child was huddled in a corner, trembling. Its blue skin had dulled to a gray blue, which Olivia suspected was a sign of distress. Olivia approached slowly, humming a gentle lullaby her adoptive mother had sung to her. She offered a piece of fruit from her pocket, then sat quietly nearby, giving the child space. Hours passed. The child watched her warily but gradually stopped trembling. Eventually, a small blue hand reached tentatively for hers. By morning, when Zelorn discovered them during his inspection rounds, the child was sleeping peacefully in Olivia's arms, its blue skin bright and vibrant once more. "What is the meaning of this breach of protocol?" Zelorn demanded, his voice echoing in the small room. The child startled awake, making a frightened sound before burying its face against Olivia's shoulder. She stroked its feathery hair soothingly. "I'm showing you what human mothering looks like," Olivia replied calmly, meeting Zelorn's gaze. "Biology doesn't matter, love does." Silence filled the containment room. Zelorn stared at Olivia with the child in her arms, his violet eyes unreadable. Several Selnari scientists had gathered behind him, their data tablets recording everything. "You have violated multiple protocols," Zelorn said finally. "The specimen must remain isolated for proper study." "Look at it," Olivia said, gesturing to the child who now clung to her. "Yesterday its skin was dull gray blue. Now it's vibrant. Yesterday it was trembling in fear. Now it's calm. Isolation was harming it." "These changes could be part of its natural biological cycle," argued Vex, who had joined the group. "Your interference has contaminated our observations." The child chirped softly and reached up to touch Olivia's face with a small 3-fingered hand. The touch was gentle, exploring. Olivia smiled at the child, who made a sound almost like a purr. "Contaminated? Or improved?" Olivia challenged. This child needed comfort, not observation. Zelorn tilted his head, regarding her curiously. "You use the term child repeatedly. It shares no genetic or evolutionary connection to your species." "That doesn't matter to humans," Olivia explained. "We recognize the young of any species as deserving of care." A junior scientist spoke up from behind Zelorn. "Hi, Commander. This might present a research opportunity." Human nurturing behaviors have never been directly observed in cross-species contexts. Zelorn considered this for a long moment. The other Selnari waited silently for his decision. Very well, he said finally. I propose what you might call a challenge, Ambassador Bennett. You will be permitted to care for this alien juvenile for 1 Kelnari lunar cycle. How long is that in Earth time? Olivia asked. Approximately 3 of your weeks, Vex supplied. Zelorn continued. If the juvenile shows greater developmental progress under your care than would be expected under our standard protocols, we will reconsider our position on human parenting methods. Olivia looked down at the child in her arms. 3 weeks to prove that human love and care mattered more than genetics. 3 weeks to show that mothering transcended species. I accept your challenge, she said. The Selnari converted one of their storage rooms into living quarters for Olivia and the child. It was sparse by human standards, 2 sleeping platforms, a small table, and a bathing area. But it was better than the containment unit. The first challenge was communication. The child spoke no known language and came from an unknown culture. Olivia decided to start by giving the child a name. I think I'll call you Nova, she told the blue-skinned child as they ate breakfast on their first morning together. It means new star in one of our Earth languages. You're like a bright new star in my life. Nova tilted its head, much like the Canary did when confused. Nova, Olivia repeated slowly, pointing at the child. Va? The child attempted, making a buzzing sound for the N. Olivia smiled wide. Yes, Nova. Nova's skin brightened, patches of light seeming to dance across the blue surface. Olivia realized that this must be how Nova's species showed happiness. The days that followed were filled with small victories and frustrating setbacks. Olivia worked with Selnari scientists to determine appropriate nutrition for Nova. They analyzed the food stores from the crashed ship and created similar synthetic versions. Olivia insisted on making meals a social time, sitting with Nova and talking while they ate, much to the confusion of the observing Kelnari. The nutritional value is the same regardless of who watches the juvenile consume it, one scientist noted. Eating together isn't about nutrition, Olivia tried to explain. It's about connection. Sleep presented another challenge. Nova's species appeared to sleep in shorter bursts, 4 hours asleep, 8 hours awake, which left Olivia exhausted as she tried to adjust to the schedule. The first night, Nova woke screaming, patches of dark blue spreading across its skin like storm clouds. Olivia held the child close, rocking gently. It's okay, Nova. You're safe. I'm here. She remembered her own nightmares after her birth parents died, and how her adoptive mother would sing to her. Softly, Olivia began to sing an old lullaby. Nova's trembling gradually stopped, the dark patches fading. In the observation room next door, Zelorn watched this interaction with scientific interest. The human female sacrifices her own rest cycle to comfort the juvenile, he noted to Vex. This seems inefficient, yet effective, Vex replied, pointing to their readings. The juvenile's stress hormones have decreased by 60%. On the 5th day, Olivia noticed that Nova was bored. There were no toys or activities provided. Using her limited resources, Olivia began crafting simple toys, a ball made from cloth scraps, a puzzle from discarded packaging materials, a set of blocks from unused sample containers. When Zelorn visited their quarters that evening, he found Olivia and Nova sitting on the floor, stacking blocks together. Nova knocked the tower down, making a trilling sound that Olivia had learned was laughter. You create diversions for the juvenile, Zelorn observed. Why? Play is how children learn, Olivia explained, helping Nova rebuild the tower. Through play, Nova is developing coordination, problem-solving skills, and social interaction. Selnari children study directly from educational programs, Zelorn said. Play is considered an inefficient use of development time. Olivia smiled, sadly. When was the last time you played, Commander? Zelorn seemed taken aback by the question. I do not recall. That's a shame, Olivia said simply, returning her attention to Nova. By the end of the first week, Nova was using several English words like eat, sleep, and play, and most importantly, Livia for Olivia. The child's progress far exceeded the Selnari scientists' projections. The humans' methods are producing unexpected results, Vex reported to Zelorn. The juvenile's language acquisition rate is 3 times faster than our models predicted. Zelorn watched the monitors showing Olivia reading to Nova from her tablet. The human expends excessive energy on this juvenile who shares no genetic connection to her, he noted. This seems evolutionarily counterproductive. And yet, Vex replied, it works. The second week brought a new crisis. Nova developed a high fever, its normally blue skin turning an alarming purple. The Selnari medical team was baffled, having no baseline for what was normal for Nova's species. Olivia refused to leave Nova's side, holding the child's hand through painful tests and treatments. She kept detailed notes on symptoms and responses, working alongside the Selnari doctors to identify the cause of the illness. You should rest, Zelorn told her on the 3rd day of Nova's illness. Our medical team is capable. Olivia shook her head, dark circles under her eyes. Would you leave if it was your child? It is not my offspring, Zelorn replied. That's where you're wrong, Olivia explained, her voice soft with exhaustion. Humans evolved as social creatures. Our strength comes from our connections, not just our genetics. The ability to care for any child regardless of origin, that's not a weakness. It's one of our greatest strengths. Zelorn was silent for a long moment. I will have nutrients brought for you, he said finally, before leaving the medical bay. After 4 tense days, Nova's fever broke. The cause had been an allergic reaction to a protein in one of the synthetic foods. The Selnari adjusted the formula, and Nova began to recover rapidly. As the challenge period entered its final week, even the most skeptical Selnari scientists had to acknowledge Nova's remarkable progress. The child was now speaking in simple sentences, showed appropriate attachment behaviors, and was physically thriving beyond their projections. More surprising was the effect Olivia and Nova had on the Selnari themselves. Scientists who had initially viewed Nova as merely a specimen began asking Olivia questions about human childcare. Some even requested to participate in Nova's daily routines, awkwardly attempting the games and comfort measures they had seen Olivia demonstrate. Your methods are unorthodox, one Kelnari caretaker admitted to Olivia, but effective. Perhaps there is something to learn from human approaches. As the challenge neared its end, Olivia felt both pride in Nova's progress and dread at what might come next. Would the Selnari take Nova away for further study? Would they recognize the value of what she had shown them? The answer would come sooner than she expected. The night before the challenge period ended, Olivia sat on the floor with Nova, helping the child build a small structure with the makeshift blocks. Nova's vocabulary had grown impressively. The child could now speak nearly 50 Earth words and understood many more. Tower big, Nova announced proudly, placing the final block on top. Yes, it's a very big tower, Olivia agreed, smiling. You did a great job. Nova's skin rippled with bright patches of blue-green, a sign of happiness that Olivia had come to love seeing. She had learned so much about Nova's species in these 3 weeks. The color changes in the skin were a form of emotional expression. The feathery filaments on Nova's head could be raised or flattened to show curiosity or fear. The webbed fingers were incredibly sensitive, able to detect tiny vibrations in surfaces. Story time? Nova asked hopefully, already reaching for the tablet that Olivia used to show simple picture stories. One short story, Olivia agreed. Then sleep time. They settled on Olivia's sleeping platform. Nova snuggled against her side. Olivia began to read a simple Earth fairy tale about a lost duckling who found a family. Nova listened with complete attention, occasionally pointing at pictures and asking questions. The door to their quarters slid open unexpectedly. High Commander Zelorn stood in the doorway, his tall figure casting a long shadow across the room. Nova, who had initially been fearful of the Kelnari, now simply glanced up before returning attention to the story. "Hi, Commander," Olivia acknowledged, surprised by the late visit. "Is everything okay?" Zelorn stepped inside, the door closing behind him. "I wish to observe without the presence of the other scientists," he explained. "Tomorrow the challenge. Period ends and I must make my final assessment." Olivia nodded, trying to hide her anxiety. These 3 weeks had changed her in ways she hadn't expected. She had come to love Nova deeply. The thought of the child being taken away for Telnari research made her feel physically ill. "Please continue your activity," Zelorn said, seating himself carefully on a bench against the wall. Olivia resumed reading the story. When she finished, Nova yawned, the gill-like structures on the child's neck fluttering gently. "Sleep now," Nova said, already curling up against Olivia's side. "Yes, sleep time," Olivia agreed softly. She began to hum the lullaby that had become their nightly ritual. Within minutes, Nova was asleep, breathing softly. Zelorn had watched the entire interaction in silence. Now he spoke, his voice quieter than Olivia had ever heard it. "I must acknowledge that I was incorrect," he stated formally. The admission clearly didn't come easily to him. The capacity of humans, particularly you, Olivia Bennett, to mother beyond biological boundaries is not a primitive trait. It is remarkable. Olivia looked up at him, surprised both by his words and by his use of her first name. "Would you like to hear the end of the story?" she offered, gesturing to the space beside them. To her greater surprise, the imposing Chelnari commander carefully moved from the bench and seated himself on the floor near them. Olivia finished reading the story in a soft voice, mindful of the sleeping child. "The duckling found a family that was not like him," Zelorn observed when she finished. "Yet they accepted him." "Yes," Olivia said. "It's an old Earth story that teaches children that family isn't always about looking the same or being born in the same place. It's about love and belonging." Among the Selnari, family units are assigned based on genetic compatibility and occupational efficiency, Zelorn said. "Yet I have observed that your random emotionally based system has produced a stronger bond with Nova than any of our caretakers could have achieved." "It's not random," Olivia corrected gently. "It's about connection. When humans care for a child, we form bonds that are as real and strong as any biological connection." Zelorn was silent for a long moment, watching Nova sleep. "Perhaps there is wisdom in your ways that we have overlooked," he admitted finally. The next morning, the Selnari ship was buzzing with activity. They were preparing to rendezvous with an Earth vessel that would take Olivia home. Her 6-month cultural exchange had been cut short by mutual agreement between Earth and the Selnari leadership. Olivia packed her few belongings, her heart heavy. She had no idea what would happen to Nova. Would the Selnari allow her to take the child? Or would Nova become a research subject again? She was summoned to the main meeting hall, where Zelorn and the ship's leadership council awaited. Nova held tightly to her hand as they entered the large room. The child had sensed Olivia's anxiety and stayed unusually quiet all morning. Zelorn stood at the center of the room, his formal posture reminding Olivia of their first meeting months ago. But something was different in his violet eyes when he looked at her now, a respect that hadn't been there before. "Ambassador Bennett," he began formally. "The Council has reviewed the data from the challenge period. The results are conclusive." Olivia squeezed Nova's small hand gently, bracing herself for what might come next. "The cultural exchange program between Earth and the Selnari will be expanded," Zelorn announced. "We will send representatives to Earth to study human families, and in return, human child development specialists will be welcomed aboard Selnari ships." Murmurs spread through the assembled Selnari. Such an extensive exchange had not been part of the original agreement. "As for Nova," Zelorn continued, and Olivia held her breath, "the child will remain under your guardianship, Ambassador Bennett, with the condition that regular developmental updates be shared with our scientific community." Relief washed over Olivia like a wave. She knelt down to Nova's level, smiling through sudden tears. "You're coming home with me," she told the child. Nova's skin brightened to a vibrant blue. Home with Livia. As they prepared to board the Earth vessel later that day, Zelorn approached them privately. His usual entourage of scientists was noticeably absent. "We have received information about Nova's species," he said. "They are called the Lumari. Their planet was destroyed by a cosmic event many cycles ago. We believed them extinct." Olivia absorbed this information, holding Nova's hand tighter. The child was the last of its kind, an orphan in the truest sense. "There is more," Zelorn continued. "The Lumari possess a unique ability that manifests in adulthood. They can form telepathic bonds with other species. This ability develops only through consistent emotional bonding during childhood." Olivia looked down at Nova, who smiled up at her trustingly. "Without what you call mothering, Nova would never have developed into a complete being," Zelorn explained. "Our clinical approach would have prevented the formation of neural pathways necessary for this ability." The implications were staggering. Had Nova remained in Selnari containment, a beautiful natural ability would have been lost forever. "I have arranged for specialists in Lumari culture to contact you on Earth," Zelorn said. "But I believe," he paused, seeming uncomfortable with the admission, "that Nova has already found the most qualified caretaker possible." Olivia was touched by his words. "Thank you, High Commander." As their ship departed, Olivia and Nova watched the massive Kelnari mothership grow smaller through the viewport. Nova pressed a small blue hand against the glass in farewell. "Ready to go home?" Olivia asked softly. Nova nodded. "Home with Mother," the child replied, using the word Olivia had taught but with a new melodic accent that hinted at the Lumari language. Aboard the Selnari ship, Zelorn stood alone in his private chamber. On his data screen, he had begun drafting a report titled Reassessment of Human Adaptive Parenting, Implications for Interspecies Relations. At the end, he added a personal note, something no Selnari would typically include in a scientific document. "She proved me wrong. Perhaps that is what humans do best." 3 months later on Earth, Olivia received a message from the Selnari ship. Attached was an image that made her smile through tears. A group of Kelnari children playing with blocks while adult Selnari sat on the floor with them, awkwardly but earnestly engaged in the activity. The message read simply, "The experiment continues. Your methods are being implemented. The results are promising." Beside her on the couch, Nova leaned against her shoulder, the child's skin glowing a warm, contented blue. Olivia put her arm around Nova and held the child close, thinking, "Of all the wonders yet to come, the end." The small blue light blinked on and off in the darkness of space. For 30 days, the lonely signal had been calling for help. No one answered. Until now. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress call," said Officer Frank Bailey, his eyes wide with surprise. Captain John Miller looked up from his coffee. The USS Horizon had been on a routine patrol mission through this empty part of space. Nothing exciting had happened in weeks. "Show me," he said, walking to the main screen. A small dot appeared on the map. It was a ship, floating still and quiet, where no ship should be. "That's deep in the neutral zone," said Miller. "Any identifying marks?" Lieutenant Susan Grant ran her fingers over her console. "Sir, it's a Zolari ship." A hush fell over the bridge. The Zolari were not friends of humans. 5 years ago, they had cut off all contact after a failed trade deal. They were known to hate outsiders and keep to themselves. "What's a Zolari ship doing this far from home?" Miller wondered out loud. "Any life signs?" Grant worked at her station for a moment. "Just one, sir. Very weak, but still alive." Miller rubbed, his chin thinking hard. Helping could cause problems with the Zolari. Not helping meant someone might die. "How long has that beacon been active?" he asked. "Computer says about 30 days, sir," Bailey answered. Miller made his decision. "Move us into range. We're going to help." The horizon changed course, its engines humming as it approached the drifting ship. Up close, they could see it was small, about the size of a research vessel. Its lights were off and it spun slowly in the emptiness. "Still just one life sign," said Grant. "Definitely Zalari." Miller stood up. "Prepare a rescue team, full safety gear. I want to know what happened on that ship." 4 crew members got ready for the mission. Dr. Alan Wright, the ship's doctor, Diane Powell, head of security, Peter Ross, the engine expert, and Lisa Chen, who knew about alien life. They put on their spacesuits and checked their tools. Minutes later, they appeared on the Zalari ship in a flash of light. It was dark and cold. They turned on their helmet lights and looked around. "Main power is off," said Ross, looking at the dead control panels. "Someone shut it down on purpose." Powell scanned the room with her weapon ready. "No signs of a fight, no damage. It's like they just left." Dr. Wright checked his medical scanner. "This way," he said, pointing down a narrow hallway. "I'm getting a reading from what looks like the sleeping area." They walked through the silent ship. Their footsteps echoed on the metal floor. Everything was in order but empty. No bodies, no signs of panic, just abandoned. They reached a closed door at the end of the hall. "The life sign is in there," said Wright. Ross worked on the door controls. With a soft hiss, the door slid open. Inside, they found a small room with basic furniture. On a bed in the corner, a figure huddled under a thin blanket. It was a young Zalari female. She looked like a human teenager, maybe 14 or 15 years old. Her skin was light blue, the color of all Zalari, but it looked pale and unhealthy. She had large almond-shaped eyes that stared at them with fear. Her hands, with only 4 fingers each, held a small metal object tightly to her chest. Dr. Wright stepped forward slowly. "It's okay," he said, turning on his translator. "We're here to help. I'm a doctor." The alien girl pressed herself against the wall, watching them with wide, frightened eyes. Lisa Chen moved past Wright and knelt down. Her voice was soft and gentle. "Can you tell us your name?" The girl looked at Chen, then at the others. After a long pause, she spoke in a whisper. "Neela." "Neela," Chen repeated with a warm smile. "That's a pretty name. We have a ship nearby with food and medicine. Will you come with us?" Neela stared at them for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. When she tried to stand, her legs shook and gave way. Dr. Wright caught her before she hit the floor. "She's weak," he said. "Probably hasn't eaten properly in days." "We need to check the ship's records," said Powell. "Find out what happened here." Ross nodded and went to a computer terminal. "I'll download what I can." 10 minutes later, they were back on the horizon. Neela was rushed to the medical bay on a stretcher. The ship's data went to the computer team for study. Miller watched as Neela disappeared down the hallway with the medical staff. She looked small and scared. He turned to his communications officer. "Contact Earth Command. Tell them we found a Zalari survivor. Young female. Abandoned. Ask for instructions." The answer came quickly. "Give medical help. Try to learn what happened. We will contact Zalari leaders." Miller frowned. Something didn't feel right. Why would a Zalari ship be this far from home? Why would they leave one of their own behind, especially a child? He walked to the window and looked at the empty Zalari ship floating outside. In all his years in space, he had seen many strange things. But abandoning a child? That went against the basic decency of most species he knew. "Sir," called Bailey from his station. "I've been checking that ship's path. It didn't drift here, by accident. Someone set a course that would take it away from all major space lanes." "You mean someone wanted it to get lost?" Miller said quietly. "Looks that way, sir." Miller shook his head. The story was getting stranger and darker. In the medical bay, Dr. Wright scanned Neela with his equipment. The girl lay still, her large eyes following every movement in the room. "She's suffering from hunger and cold," Wright told Nurse Olivia Green. "Start her on fluids and prepare a nutrient treatment suitable for Zalari physiology." Chen had stayed, with Neela sitting by her bed. "You're safe now," she told the girl. No one will hurt you here. Neela didn't respond, but her hand reached out and gripped Chen's sleeve, holding on tightly as if afraid she might disappear. Back on the bridge, the first reports from the downloaded ship data were coming in. Captain, said the science officer, according to the ship's log, it was a research vessel, but almost all the specific information has been deleted. Deleted by who? Asked Miller. By the crew, it seems. Before they left? Miller's frown deepened. And where did they go? The escape pods were launched 29 days ago, all headed back towards Zilari space. All except Neela, said Miller. He made another decision. Send a message to the Zilari government. Tell them exactly what we found and ask why they abandoned one of their children. As the message was sent, Miller knew the answer wouldn't be simple. But one thing was clear. The small blue alien girl sleeping in his medical bay had been left to die, alone in the darkness of space, and he was determined to find out why.